Alright, Joe here, welcome back to We Need to Talk. This is of course the show that looks at football on the internet over the past 7 days. 7 days that has seen Dani Alves unveiled to a better atmosphere than the Emirates has ever seen. Matteo Pessina unveil a questionable new brand partnership. And Crystal Palace put out such a bad unveiling video, they had to delete it.
Yeah!
Anyway, this week we need to talk about the transfer window. Yes, as you guys have probably guessed from the title and the thumbnail, Football Daily is jumping on the back of yet another internet trend. This time we're about 2 months late to the tier list game, and I'm going to be ranking every single Premier League side's transfer window by tiers. Whatever these are, ranking systems, you get me. We're starting with the A's. Arsenal. Now, Arsenal Twitter have been very busy, as have the football club in this window. I actually think they've probably had the best window alongside Tottenham Hotspur and Manchester City. So I'm putting them down in tier 1. I think they would have definitely had the best window had they managed to get an option or an obligation to buy on Ceballos and a better centre-back than David Luiz. David Luiz is a decent stopgap. If they've got Upamecano and they hadn't sold Iwobi, they would be far and away winners of the window. Pato hates the Iwobi sale, so they're around about the biggest winners, but not clear and away. So I'm putting Arsenal into tier 1. Next up, we've got Aston Villa. Now, this caused a bit of debate in the office. I've chosen to put them in tier 3. They have massive, massive outlay, but nobody is overly convinced about any single one of their signings. I really like that they managed to keep McGinn and get him a 5-year contract and keep Jack Grealish, despite the fact I didn't think they'd be able to, but we can all agree, big overpayment on Tyrone Mings. Not massively convinced by Vesely. If he doesn't start well, who's the backup striker exactly? I think Douglas Luiz could be a bit hit and miss, but at least they've got bodies in. And I do rate Dean Smith as a manager, so mid-table, tier 3. Next up, we've got Bournemouth. Tier 4, we've decided to put Bournemouth in. They did manage to keep the star players in Callum Wilson, Nathan Ake, despite interest from them. Fraser had interest, but they didn't add particularly well. We like Lloyd Kelly, obviously very, very highly rated, and not much else has happened. I mean, they've also got Philip Billingham from Huddersfield, not a terrible signing. They just haven't upgraded enough to take them any higher in the league, in my opinion. So for that reason, I'm putting them in tier 4. Brighton. Now, Brighton are an interesting one. Really like Graham Potter at Football Daily, obviously statistically led. We like Mopé, we like Trossard, we like Aaron Moy, we like Adam Webster. I think it looks like Graham Potter's probably going to play a back 3 and Webster will play most of those minutes. I think Potter will also get better usage out of players like Jahan Bash. So, I've put Brighton in tier 3. I think they're a little bit unlucky not to go into tier 2. This is kind of a middling one between tier 2 and tier 3 for us at Football Daily. Next up, we've got Burnley. The less said about Burnley's window, the better, I think it's fair to say. Danny Drinkwater on loan on deadline day, the best signing by distance. Jay Rodriguez has to hit the ground running. He cannot afford injuries because other than that, there's no positives. I mean, they've kept McNeil. Fair enough. But Jay Rodriguez and Danny Drinkwater, I think Burnley will be firmly in the relegation dogfight this year, fully tier 5. Next up, we've got Chelsea, tier 4. Somehow, despite being banned, they've still managed to sign 2 players. Of course, one of them, Pulisic, was agreed in January, hence why he's allowed to join now, but still a fantastic, fantastic signing. I think their record, about £59 million. And Mateo Kovacic didn't have the best season under Maurizio Sarri, but I'm expecting better output under Frank Lampard. And do you know what? Despite the fact they've lost Eden Hazard, they can't really do any more than they did. They've just got to hope Mason Mount and Tammy Abraham do bits and Callum Hudson-Odoi comes back on fire. So Chelsea, tier 4. Crystal Palace, yeah, again, tier 5. Look, they've sold Aaron Wan-Bissaka, their best defender. They got an okay fee for him, but it makes them worse. They managed to keep Zaha somehow, but he now apparently hates the club. They didn't sign a striker despite losing Michy Batshuayi. I know he's only on loan. Gary Cahill, probably an upgrade on their current centre-back options. And James MacArthur, just such a meh signing. I think Crystal Palace will be in the relegation dogfight as well. Tier 5, not good enough from Roy Hodgson. Everton up next, the Toffees. Tier 3, we've put them in. This was a difficult one. Some people wanted them lower, some people wanted them higher. Very solid effort going forward. Alex Iwobi through the door on deadline day for £35 million. I think is a solid signing. Also, Moise Keane seems like a snip at 20-odd million pounds, but didn't clear out some of that deadwood. Theo Walcott probably should have gone. Bernard probably should have gone. And didn't sign a centre-back. Marcos Rojo fell through on deadline day, leaving them with just Yerry Mina, Michael Keane and Mason Holgate. That is not deep enough for a top 6 challenge, which I'm sure Everton fans will be hoping they're going to do this season. So defensively poor, offensively strong, mid-table, tier 3. Leicester City up next. Now, bit of a debate in the office between them and Everton as well. I've put them at tier 2. Because they got such good money for Harry Maguire, £80 million. Yes, they haven't replaced him, but they'll be hoping Benkovic and Soyuncu both step up. They managed to get Dennis Pryor over the line on deadline day. Purple Patch Perez might not be the best player, but at least he adds another option going forward. And of course, the main man, they somehow got Yuri Tielemans for a cut price. So Yuri Tielemans kept Ndidi, signed 2 forwards, kept Brendan Rodgers. Very solid window. Liverpool, tier 5. I mean, no real signings. Got some youngsters through the door, but I think they had to improve this window given how much their rivals have improved. If Manchester City is spending upwards of 120, 130 million pounds, you've got to be involved. Let alone when Tottenham Hotspur are making some of the signings they did. Needed a forward as well, having let Daniel Sturridge go. Big pressure on Ryan Brewster if one of those boys gets injured up front. Didn't get a left-back replacement for Moreno to fill in that hole for Andy Robertson. James Milner a year older. Tier 5. Sorry, Scousers. Manchester City, competing with Arsenal for the best window in my opinion. Tier 1, definitely. João Cancelo, what the hell Juventus were doing, letting him go beggars belief, but he becomes the most expensive fullback of all time. I think about £67 million. Having said that, it's offset. Somehow they got 37 million for Danilo. I don't know what has gone on there. Less said about that, the better. Of course, also bought in Rodri as the Fernandinho replacement. We love Rodri at Football Daily. 60-odd million pounds from Atletico Madrid. A great signing. And Angelino just kind of offers that little bit more left-back cover with Benjamin Mendy's dodgy knees. Just an all-round brilliant window by Manchester City, continuing their course to be Premier League champions again. Boring. Manchester United, the one I didn't want to have to do. I'm teetering between tier 4 and tier 3 here. I'm going to put it somewhere in the middle of tier 4 and tier 3. Obviously, a huge upgrade on he who shall not be named in Aaron Wan-Bissaka at a decent fee, £45 million. A massive overpayment on Harry Maguire, but a big upgrade on Smalling. So defensively, a decent window. In midfield, to lose Ander Herrera, we lost Fellaini in January and not replace him is nothing short of a disgrace. To lose Lukaku on deadline day and not have a replacement already in the bag is a shambles. I'm perfectly happy with selling Lukaku for that fee, for 80 million euros. I think we've actually done well to get 80 million euros, but you knew he was going. You knew you were going to sell him. Buy a replacement before you sell him, because the pressure on those youngsters is just absolutely immense. If Greenwood doesn't hit the ground running, or Rashford picks up an injury, United are in a world of trouble, let alone if Pogba leaves before Europe's deadline day. We could well be absolutely shafted if that happens, so I just hope it doesn't. Not a good window. Woodward, have a look, long hard look at yourself in the mirror. Seriously. Tier 3, probably tier 4, I'm being kind. Newcastle United, another interesting one. I would have probably put them higher, but I've put them tier 3. I think the loss of Rafa Benitez cannot be underestimated. A huge blow this summer to lose a manager of his calibre and replace him with Steve Bruce. We actually think Saint-Maximin is a good signing. We like Joel Linton, but they didn't really improve the midfield. So who's going to get the ball to Almiron? Who's going to get the ball to Saint-Maximin? Who's going to get the ball to Joel Linton? Not convinced about the midfield signings. Losing Rafa is a massive blow, but a bit like Everton, smashed it going forward. Unconvincing, tier 3. Forgot to mention Andy Carroll, by the way. Less said about that, the better. Norwich, tier 5, maybe heading towards tier 4. Paddy Roberts, hoping he has a good season for the club, but no real Premier League quality sign. They just don't have a big enough budget to compete with some of the other teams in this league. Are really going to struggle, and I'm sorry, I just don't see Farke lasting an awfully long time this season. From one relegation candidate to another, Sheffield United, another tier 5 side. They've just got no bank, have they? Shopping exclusively in England's second tier. Not that there's any shame in that. I think actually Ollie McBurney might be okay. It's about getting the service to him. Takes a lot of shots inside the box with his head. So a lot of reliance on service. Mousset at 10 million seems like a bit of a risk to Sheffield United. I just think they're nailed on for the drop. It's a tier 5 situation, lads. Southampton, we've put them in a tier 4 sort of area. Che Adams, incoming, pretty decent signing. Nathan Redmond locked down to a new contract. Again, that's good business. Ralph Hasenhüttl still at the club. Danny Ings made permanent, not too bad, but no signings that are really going to propel them up the table to catch a Wolves or an Everton or a Leicester. I think they're probably going to be in the bottom half of the league, floating around the sort of 12th, 13th after a window like this. Moving on to another massive, massive winner of the window, Tottenham Hotspur, tier 1, Lo Celso, Ndombele, Ryan Sessegnon, kept Alderweireld, might be keeping Eriksen. He might still go to Real Madrid or Atletico Madrid or somewhere on the continent, but either way, they'll be getting 50 mil for him. Lo Celso, on loan with an option to buy at £55 million, is outrageous business from Daniel Levy, given that he was quoted £90 million at the start of the window. Tanguy Ndombele, everybody wanted him, they got him early doors, he's bedded in already. Ryan Sessegnon, I'm sure they'll be thinking he's probably more of a winger, so whether or not that means Pochettino's going to play at 3 at the back system and use Sessegnon as a wing back remains to be seen. The only drawbacks really for Tottenham, didn't replace Llorente, so they don't have a backup striker. Obviously they missed out on Paulo Dybala and lost Trippier without signing a right back. Their current right back options are Kyle Walker-Peters, Aurier and Juan Foyth. That's a little bit of a worry for me, but given that they've got Lo Celso and Ndombele as a midfield pivot going into the new season, they have to be tier 1. Watford are up next. Difficult one this. Before deadline day, they were looking as a tier 5 situation, but they did get Ismaila Sarr over the line on deadline day for a club record fee. So I think it jumps them up to tier 4. Danny Welbeck, okay. Not excited about Danny Welbeck at Watford. I think Danny Welbeck, Troy Deeney and Andre Gray as your strikers. They did manage to keep Abdoulaye Doucouré in the face of interest from Everton. So I think tier 4 is a fair sort of area for Watford after this summer. Next up, we've got another team going into tier 2. It's West Ham. Pablo Fornals, absolute bit of us at Football Daily. Loved him all summer, crushed it at the under-21s with Spain. It should be a great move. Sebastian Haller, expensive at £45 million, but a huge upgrade on Marko Arnautovic, who just didn't want to be there at all. Kept Issa Diop in the face of interest from Manchester United. Kept Declan Rice in the face of interest from Tottenham Hotspur as well. Probably could have done with a partner for Declan Rice at the base of midfield. Didn't quite get that over the line, but Fornals, Haller, Lanzini as a front three is pretty bloody exciting. Has to be a tier 2 situation. Finishing up with Wolverhampton Wanderers. Now, there was a bit of debate in the office. Some of the boys wanted them tier 2. I thought more tier 3 just because they didn't get a Moutinho upgrade given that he's a year older. But I can see their point. Jimenez on a permanent, given that he was a loan last season. Then Donker on a permanent as well. Brought Catrone in. Vallejo got over the line. They kept Ruben Neves. I can see what the boys mean. I'm going to put them up in that tier 2 and buckle under peer pressure. But where would you put each team's transfer window in the same tier list structure that we've done? Let us know in the comments below and on Twitter as well if you want to do the fancy graphic version. And we'll readdress some of them in next week's show. I think we've got this one pretty much spot on though, but I'm still waiting for a shitload of abuse from Norwich fans. Anyway, thanks very much for watching. Goodbye.